Hello everybody, nice to see you back. And it's the afternoon slot, so if you fall asleep, that's okay. If I fall asleep, wake me. And it's so solution sales. So let me have a little look at this. Firstly, I'll tell you, this program actually I have here, I've tried to condense this down. I've used this, but a larger version of this, as an induction program for new salespeople coming on board in business-to-business sales. Okay, so that's the origin of this sales training program. So we train people as they come on board with a new company. So a part of that then would be the company culture and the products and various things, which of course we're not going to touch on. So we're going to keep it pretty high level. As we're trying to do this in two half-day sessions, it will be 30,000 foot. Okay, so I'll fly over things, but stop me along the way if there's something that you particularly want to have an answer to. But we will have a Q&A session later at the end of the day today and also at the end of the day tomorrow. So as you can see if you can see this thing up on screen here, we would have pre-call. We'd also have some workshops. Normally you'd have workshops in this. We'll break into groups of 2 or 3. I don't think we're going to do that in this case here, but the university may want to do that in the future. So that's something that we're working on behind the scenes. So there might be something here where there's a more formal one in a smaller group where there are group sessions as well to really try and emphasize what's going on. Did everybody get a workbook? Okay, cool. Actually, people online, if you want a workbook, we can email one to you afterwards. So just flag that up, and we can email it to you because I have all of these in PDF. So you're very welcome to have any materials I've got. So that's absolutely fine. So I'll go through this. Basically, we're looking at 4 or 5 things here. One is the reasons why people buy. Why do people buy stuff? You know, and I'm particularly thinking of business to business, not so much when you get the fad to go around and buy an ice cream, although we could use that, but that's a really good idea. Then we're looking at the key success factors in a sales professional. So if somebody's a sales professional, what makes them really successful? Some of the key things within that. And then, you know, sometimes I get a very kind of a fatalistic view of selling. Oh, I don't know if I'll make my target this week, this month, whatever. It's kind of whatever will happen type of thing. Well, that's a very silly attitude. You need to take control of this. And there are 4 key areas of control that I'll touch on. I won't go into detail in all of them. We would do in a training session if we were doing an induction program. But we'll look at those 4 things that you need to be mindful of, that you need to take control of. So let's jump in and see how far we go. Really, the purpose of this program is to give more structure. That's the first thing, and some skills, but to give some structure to how that. Also, it formalizes sometimes what we already know. Oftentimes we kind of think, we already know this, but nobody's ever affirmed that we know it. So you kind of know it, but you're not really sure. So have the confidence to actually, yeah, that's right, now build on it. You know, so it's important to formalize that. Provide some techniques and help. So we'll come down to some specific things we will look at to get more sales and to get more sales from the meetings that we have, from the calls that we have with people. Look more closely at the sales process. Closing comes into that, but also opening. So in a sense, the closing starts here, but then you have to work back from that and see how we started off, how we start doing it. And then, yeah, that's more or less where we're going to go with this. Now, I'm probably going to stand up. The reasons why people buy, right? I put up here that people buy for 4 reasons. Make money, save time, or enhance the product, service, or experience. Do you agree or disagree with this? You all agree? You don't know? So think of the last thing you bought. It could even be an ice cream. That's great. Why would you buy an ice cream? Are you going to buy it to make money? No. Are you going to buy it to save money? No. Well, they might go to a cheaper place than a more expensive place. Fine. Are you going to save time with an ice cream? No. What are you going to do? You're going to enhance your life because you had a lovely ice cream on a hot day, right? So everything fits into one of these categories. You know, why do I buy a new car? I buy a new car because when I make money with my new car, Some people will because it might be a Yango driver, it might be a taxi driver. So they make money out of a new car. That might be good. Will they save money? Yeah, well, actually, I have a 15-year-old car, and we're getting to the point now where I think I might have to put it out of its misery because it keeps breaking down. So it's actually costing me money. So if I buy a new car, I'd probably save money with doing that. Save time, buying a new car. Well, if your car breaks down, are you wasting time? Yes, you are. So it might save me time in doing that. Will it enhance my product? Well, yes, when I buy my new shiny Mercedes-Benz, I'm going to be really kind of cool, right? So, yeah, it won't be that, I'm afraid. But, but it'll basically enhance my image, it'll enhance my lifestyle, it'll have more features, it'll have some nice things in, so it kind of helps me along. So these are kind of how it all falls in. And the final thing I put up there is that for the most part, there's a huge emotional component in selling and in buying, in purchasing. And this goes down even to large corporate things. You think of the merger of two huge banks, for example. You've got two monstrous banks. There's going to be an emotional element somewhere because people will think, well, I'm a shareholder of this, I've worked in this company for 20 years, my pension is in here, I own stock, and can I really let go of this? There's an emotional element. It's not just a spreadsheet. And that's really interesting. So when we're closing and when we're opening, we're talking to people, getting good, we need to address the emotions in selling as well. So because the emotions are a major part of what we're doing in there. So let me see how I'll speed through this. Now the key success factors, I'll go through a lot of things really quickly here. The key success factors, the first one is attitude. Attitude is so important. And if you don't have the right attitude, really, you probably need to get another job. And what is the right attitude? I think humility is a good one. I think you need to be, you're there. You have to be a servant in sales. You have to come and serve. You're trying to meet people's needs. And to do that, to meet people's needs effectively, you have to uncover their needs. They may not know what their needs are. And you do that by asking questions. So having this as part of it, the attitude is really important. And you also have to think about, being positive about it, being proud of your offering, whether you're selling something or you have a service or whatever it is. If I was running a Yango taxi, I'd want to have it clean. Well, I've been in a lot of ones that are kind of scruffy. I think, no, if I was going to do that, I want it clean, man. Why? Well, because I'm proud of my taxi service and I want to have it clean. And we're also, like this morning, we're not doing it for ourselves, we're doing it for the glory of God. So we want to see that whatever you do, whether it's that guy sweeping the broom, sweeping with a broken broom, it doesn't really matter. Now, activity is the next one. You've got to do stuff. And sometimes we've got into a world of laziness. And I think there's, selling, no matter what you're selling, it's a numbers game. You have to have activity. So if you're going to make 4 phone calls a day, you have 4 chances. If you make 50 phone calls a day, you have 50 chances. You have to put the work in. It's as simple as that. And that goes to the most basic things of selling. When I was a young lad at a sales job as I was a student, and I used to sell janitorial supplies and cleaning materials into the catering industry and hotels and pubs and clubs and whatever, where the schools and so forth. And I knew if I called on 10 schools, I had 10 chances. If I called on 20, I had 20 chances. And I was like a bunny. I was just boom, 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 boom all the time trying to go into these places because I knew that I was going to be successful if I spoke to more people. And even now, come along, 40 years later, we're now looking at entering markets, and it's really quite complicated. We're going into markets where, we talk about the opening fees being 150 and 5,000, those kinds of numbers. They're pennies in comparison with opening a store. If you want to open 20 stores at 200,000 a store, what's that, 4 million? Not always good at maths, it's 4 million, right? That's a lot of money. So the business proposition needs to really stand up. Now, how do we go about our research? We go about loads and loads of research. And is it boring? Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's kind of a 9.5. Because you're sitting there going through LinkedIn, going through files, researching. And we have to do a lot of that ourselves because we don't know enough people in the industry to go out and do it for us, because you might as well do it yourself, because we know what we're looking for. So actually, it still happens even at my level, like 40 years later, trying to open up a franchise concept in a whole new market, let's say like Zambia or Tanzania or in Spain, where I'm going sometime later in the year. So all of that kind of thing. So activity is a monstrous one. And then the next one is skills development. Now, if my friend over here is studying law. When you finish and you get your degree, is that the last time you'll ever study? No. When is the last time you'll study? The day before you retire. Right? All the continuous improvement is absolutely vital. And you know who takes ownership of that? You do. I do. We have to take ownership of our skills development. Nobody else would do it. We're no longer being fed by mama. We have to do it ourselves. And so skills development is really important. So these are the three really important bits in there. I break the skills development down into different customer meeting skills, which is kind of like what we're doing here in some ways. Sales process and managing the sales process, that's important in the meeting you have with people. So you help with that skill. And then you have product application. What does your product or service do for the company? So you need to know your product really well, and not just what it does, but how it does it. And how does the customer perceive that? And so you really need to know your product and what your product does for your customer. Really, really important. Industry knowledge. What's happening in the industry? What's happening in the industry out there? What's going to affect what you're doing? I mean, right now there's like a big stock market readjustment. You could call it a crash, maybe, I don't know. Kicked off in Japan over the weekend, and it's kind of cascading around the world. And yeah, but these adjustments happen every 15, 20 years, and there's a big one going on at the moment. So how is that impacting on your market sector? What's happening within there? How is that going on? And just continual personal improvement. And adapting to new technology. A lot of what we do is online. And we were having a session internally just about how do we, because we use Google Meet all the time, and we're thinking how can we switch from tab to tab? How can we do various things? How can we click in with videos and make it all seamless? So how can you zoom in and zoom out? And I was on a call yesterday with one of my colleagues. Man, it was so dynamic. It was fabulous. He did an amazing job. And we've all had to learn, because hey, we weren't born with this knowledge. And I'm an old dog, and I still get some new tricks thrown at me, and I have to I have to learn how to jump and bark accordingly. So that's what we do. So all of these areas really important. So these are the key success factors: your attitude, your activity, and your development. Now, but I don't want to do. Yeah. I heard this so many times, and I think, I'm too busy and whatever. I said, well, there's 4 areas you can be totally in control of. So quit complaining, and these are the 4 areas. One is your territory, your geographic territory, in your business-to-business sales environment. You can take control of your territory. Right now, I'm focused very much on, and you have to focus on your territory and really uncover all of the potential opportunities there. Some of them might be deals you can close literally in 2 visits or 3 visits. You might close that deal, and it's great. You've done that. Others might take you years. We're just building a relationship, understanding the company, keep understanding the company. And so you have to continue to go. And if you join a company in a sales environment and somebody says to you, don't bother going into Vatra Limited, they'll never be interested in what we do. I tried them, I spoke to them before. Take it, park the information, call into Vatra, see what they're doing. Because his information, it might be a personality clash. It might be old information. Maybe something new is happening in the company that only started last week. Call in anyway. You don't know. Knock on the door. And so territory control is important, to know your territory and everything that's going on there. At the moment, one of my territories now is Spain. So I'm doing a load of work in Spain, researching and getting to know all of the main organizations that I need to be in touch with, not just in the restaurant group sector, but some of the financial groups, some of the supply chain people, some of the property people. And I'm trying to build this network, and I'm doing it on LinkedIn, linking up with the key movers, having calls with them. So there's a lot of stuff just really taking hold of my territory. And I barely knew how to spell Spain when I started doing this. So now I have a load of information on Spain. Time control. Time, we have the same time as the president, Okay, he's got 50 people working for him. We don't. But we have time. How much time do we waste? How much time do we manage? How much time? We're hooked. We're all hooked on scrolling, right? So we start scrolling, oh, that's a nice dog, that's a nice cat, or whatever else it is. So we're hooked on scrolling, and not all scrolling is bad. You do need some downtime, and that's fine. But managing our time is really important. What are the key selling times in an organization? When is the best time to do your expenses? Is it during the middle of the sales day, or is it maybe in the evening when you have a bit more time in your hands and whatever? So how do you manage your time, particularly in a territory where you may want to be driving around as well? And then you control what's happening in meetings. This is the area we'll spend probably the most time on over the next today and tomorrow. Because I've seen so many people put so much hard work into having a meeting with a company, and they get there and they blow it. And they think, oh man, their meeting was hijacked because they didn't take control of the meeting. And I'll show you how to take control of the meeting. Because you might walk into a meeting and say, oh, how are things with you? Oh, good, yeah, fine. How are things? Oh, good, yeah, yeah. And so tell me all about this new thing you've got. And then the guy goes into what my wife, who's a primary school teacher, would call show and tell, right? So then I'll start telling about the product. And they have no idea what the customer's requirement is. They're just talking into an empty chamber. And it comes to the end and they say, oh, thank you very much, bye-bye. An hour is over and you're out of the meeting, and you've achieved nothing because you put no structure into the call. And so we need to figure out how to take control of those meetings. And product knowledge, absolutely. We have total control over that. Work with the technical people. Ask your customers, ask the existing customers, why did you buy this product? What do you like the product? Tell me, sell it back to me. Tell me what you think of the product. What do you really like about it? What do you not like about it? How does it work? And you'd be surprised what your customers will tell you. The reason you thought they bought might be completely different. And all of a sudden, now you've got a new benefit that you never knew about that your product can actually meet. So it's or bring to a customer. So the first one of these I'm looking at is just territory, right? Now, I want to glide over this. This photograph, I think, is in your book. Is that right? But it might be on 2 pages, the way it came out. But it's a funny thing, really. If you have a territory in a business, this isn't a business-to-business sales thing. It's less the case if you're online. If you're online, then it's a kind of a different thing. If you're selling online, you have meetings online and all of that. But if you're doing this, oh, where's my? Let me get the next slide up. This will be more useful. There you go. You want me to talk louder? Okay. It's now this is funny, right? Because here I put a chart together, and it's representative of a geographic area. Okay, so let this be let's say it's the city of Lusaka, right? So let's say it's Lusaka. So now you divide Lusaka into different territories. Area 1, opposite Area 2, and then Area 3, neighboring Area 1. Area 4, opposite that. Area 5 here. Area 6 up here. Now, if you're selling, let's say, janitorial supplies, that's like I was doing back when I was a student, and you're calling into every restaurant, every school, every pub, every club, everything around. Anywhere there's a group of people, they need to buy your product. So you're going in, and I'll separate these areas out here. So if I go, say, Monday and Tuesday, you might go into Area 1. So Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be working here. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to be right opposite that in a totally different area. Why do I do that? Because the following week then, I'm back in Area 3, which is right next door here. So now, when I'm in Area 3, I can mop up anybody I couldn't see in Area 1. Right? So you begin to get this thing where you're back and forth across the territory, rather than going around in a circle, then where you can always loop back and see somebody you didn't see the previous day or the previous week. So this is the thing. If anyone wants to sit with me and go through this in more detail, I'm happy to do that, but we'll just move on with that. But it's an area of breaking this down. And furthermore, you then leave 1 day a week for admin, maybe a half a day. So it could be Friday afternoon, it could be Monday morning, because if you're out on the road, you don't really want to be on the road Monday morning or Friday afternoon because everybody else is on the road. So you might want to just avoid the traffic and go and do some productive admin. So this is one area of taking your area and managing the territory so that you have at least control over it and you have a systematic plan. So you know you're going to be here, you know you're going to be there. Now I live in the UK and I'm talking to a lot of people about Dodo in different countries. And one of the things I have to do is bring people to Dubai so they can see stores in action, because they're the closest stores. They can see 4 or 5 stores in a tour between pizza and coffee, and we're there. Each visit is one day. But it's a long way for me to fly from London to Dubai for one meeting. So what I do is I say to them, okay, I'm going to be in Dubai on these dates, between this and this. I'm going to be there for 4 days. Take me a day to fly back. So I'm 6 days out of my home, and I'm going to be in Dubai for 4 days. So next week I fly out on Wednesday. I have meetings Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then I fly back again on first thing Monday morning. So that's how we do it. Now I'm doing the stint this month. Next month, or the following October, one of my colleagues, Mohammed, he's doing it. And the month after that, one of my colleagues, Ilya, he's doing it. So we now know in advance that one of us is going to be there at a given date. And that doesn't move. That's territory planning. So we can also make sure that people are there for that reason. Now, the next one is time. Wow, time is quite a challenging thing. And, we have, I like to plan ahead as much as we can. So at least you know that, roughly speaking, because you'll get a target. You'll have a quarterly target to achieve. So you think, what's the quarterly target? And that's great if you get your quarterly target before the quarter starts. I've often got quarterly targets like 3 weeks in. And then you think, I've already lost 3 weeks here, man. And so you need to be proactive and try and, if you have a manager, push your manager. I want my target earlier than this because I want to be able to plan. I want to be able to know what I'm doing for the next number of weeks. And you might want to look down and think, who are the customers? Where am I going to get this revenue from? How am I going to do it? But that's because you know your territory. You've been talking to people as you've gone over that talk. Now, I have a few tools on there. One of them is what we call a territory planner. Oops. A weekly call plan. I've got those in handouts, but I'll send you some electronic versions of those. I don't think there's a picture of those in the book, is there? I don't think so, no. I have some handouts with those in it, okay? And there's some handouts at the back if you want to get those. And it's a territory plan. And in that territory plan, I put it on here if you want to see it online. But the territory plan covers areas like the obvious things, that person's name or whatever. And then you'd ask, what are the original reasons for going there? How did you get the meeting and so on? So you begin to break this down into various areas, and you're trying to see in advance, what do I want to get from this call? Now, this is painful for people who've never done it before, because a lot of people in sales have just been winging it. They think they work up, they get out of the car, they pop in, have the friendly chat, and then they come back out again. If they get a sale, they get a sale. If they don't, they don't. But this actually brings a plan into it to help you get that sale. And you do it on a quarterly basis, do it on a monthly basis, do it on a weekly basis, and then you know more or less what you're going to be doing for the next quarter. And the reasons why, the biggest outcome is that you've planned the most important things first. Oftentimes you will default to the thing that you like most, but might add least value. So how can you discipline yourself so that you get some of those? There's a book called Brian Tracy, I think it is, called Eat That Frog. Eat That Frog. And why is it called that? And the whole idea is the last thing you want to do is eat this frog, so do it first thing. Get it out of the way. Eat that frog. So there are things we need to do in time management, and that's going to be really, really important, is to prioritize what you need to do and do it. Because we all have things we don't want to do, and we put them on the long finger, then they become a stress and a hassle, and then eventually you get around to doing them, and they're twice as difficult. So have the discipline to take that out of there. Oops. Now the meetings, we'll deal quite a bit in meetings. So maximize the meeting planning call structure, that's really important, and working with the whole sales continuum. So I will go through the continuum, which is a really important part of what we're looking at here. But the biggest outcome from this is to give you structure. Because if you have meetings where you're just having a friendly meeting and chat with somebody without having a real sales purpose behind it, you're not going to get the results you're looking for. People will buy from you, but you mightn't sell anything. And so you got meetings. I thought you were taking this, sorry. So you're focusing on developing needs. So within the meetings, what you're trying to establish more than anything else is the needs of the customer. What is this customer? What is this customer's biggest problem? Where is the pain in that customer? Because you as a salesperson are a problem solver. So you're trying to identify where the pain is with the customer, and then look at ways of bringing a solution to ease that pain. And you do that by developing needs. It allows also for greater customer satisfaction. If you meet people's needs, they come back to you. They talk about you. They recommend you, and that's really positive. And of course, you get more sales because of that, and you've got really good personal development out of that. And that's personal development. I can't stress how important that is as we go. Now, product knowledge is interesting. Product knowledge, again, we're skimming over things here, because often in a proper environment here, we would look at an actual product and look at what it does for somebody. But the main thing is we need to be able to bring solutions to the customer's needs. So we need to know the customer, where's the customer's pain, how are we going to deal with that? And then we look at what we call features and benefits, or features, advantages, and benefits. And this is one of the greatest areas of confusion in sales, is that people don't know the difference between features and benefits. And so we would have a workshop on this, but I will deal with this possibly tomorrow afternoon. And so features and benefits are super duper important, because people buy the benefits that something brings. They don't just buy it because it has a particular handle on the door or whatever it is. By doing this product knowledge, it gives you more control, because now you know your product. You know your product really well, and you've got the confidence to stand over it when you're talking to other people. And that's the same whether you're selling international franchising or you're selling janitorial supplies into a school. And somebody asked me earlier on, one of the things is, about ethical selling. Ethical selling has to be win-win. Both parties have to win out of the deal, or it's not a deal. It's out of balance. If both parties don't win, then somebody's manipulating somebody. So you have to come out of this where everybody wins. Now, if I go back just on the product thing here, for example, the customer won't always know what they want, right? They think they know, and they're very happy. Henry Ford one time said that if he asked customers what they wanted, they'd say, oh, I'll have a bigger horse, right? Because they saw the solution. They didn't see the solution of the problem that he saw. So no, because there's no point in. Sometimes they just want a bigger horse. They wouldn't have known. I'll tell you a brief story. I used to do a lot of running, and I used to listen to music when I was running. So I had a Walkman. I don't know. Ask your parents. And I used to have a Walkman, and that was I used to have gone running with a Walkman. That was okay, but it was a bit heavy, a bit tedious. And then compact discs came in. Ask your auntie. And the compact disc came in, and that was probably a little bit better. But as you're running, it was skipping. And so that was a nuisance. And then I read somewhere in a magazine that there was a compact disc player that had an anti-skip thing in. So I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I want to buy one of those. The next time I come through duty free, I'm getting one of those at Heathrow. So I get to Heathrow, lots of time on my hands, go into this guy, and I said, I want to buy a compact disc player. Because I had compact discs at home, and I'd never had a mobile one, but I had a load of CDs, and a load of CDs with me in my case. And I thought, I'm going to buy this, and I'll load it up as I'm traveling across the Atlantic, and it'll be great. And I get there, and the guy says, do you mind if I ask you a few questions first? I thought, this guy's good, right? I went in looking for a compact disc player. I knew what I wanted. I knew the model. I had the money. This is the solution to my problem. And I thought, I want to buy this. And he said, when do you listen to music? I said, I like listening to music when I'm running. Okay, that's good. Do you like to listen to whole albums or individual tracks? I said, God, that's a strange question to ask. Well, whatever. Normally the whole album, because I don't want to take it out and you're running and put another one in. It's a bit of a hassle. He said, okay, that's interesting. He said, how many CDs, when you travel, how many CDs do you bring with you? Oh, I have about 15 or 20 in my bag right now. And he said, okay, that's interesting. So what if I could show you a system where you could listen to it on a device that was no bigger than a cigarette packet, and you could carry it in your pocket, and you could play albums, you could play tracks, you could play people, you could do, an artist or whatever. Would that be something of interest to you? I said, wow, does such a thing exist? He says, yeah, it's called an MP3 player. And he took this out and he showed it to me, and I went, wow. I had the solution to my problem when I came in the door. I had the money, I wanted to buy it, but he changed my mind. And then across the Atlantic with my laptop open, shoving CDs in, transferring them to this MP3 player, and then playing it like that. So this is a great example of somebody who went in thinking they knew what, but the salesperson stopped me in my tracks. I said, okay, tell me more. And he asked me questions. And some of the times I didn't understand why do you want, what does it matter to you whether I listen to tracks or albums, whatever. But he was asking me questions because later he could meet those needs. So that's a really good example of him knowing his product knowledge. Now the sales continuum. This is something that we have a lot of time with. Now when we're doing this in a normal environment, we will do a lot of workshops. Because there's one thing, going through listening, chalk and talk is fine, but actually you really need to sit down and do some proper stuff to work with this. So I have on this one here, these are the key areas. If we break any sales call down to this thing, pre-call planning, you've got the opening, then you're establishing needs, I'm trying to understand what the needs are, then you're trying to present a solution, and then you're trying to close and overcome objections. And then there's some post-meeting activity, things you need to do, update CRM, write to the customer, email them, whatever it is. And then you've got the proposal that you need to put together, because now you need to put a proposal to them to go back, okay? So the proposal is where you find out whether you really had a good call or not. So I put a proposal here and I'm thinking, these are the things you need to ask. So you're sitting down. I sat down to put a proposal together so many times. And I sit there and I realize, oh man, I never asked that question. I'm guessing here. I don't know what it is. I can't remember how many people work there. I don't know the information on this. I can't remember which company is currently using. You forget the stuff. So now you think, actually, yeah, we need to bring discipline in, because what's their need? What's their real need here? How could you summarize the need? Where's the corporation at? I met a company recently and they have 5 or 6 food concepts in the country they're in. And they said, yeah, we've got this, and we've got fine dining, we've got takeaways, we've got a mobile catering business, and but we want to hedge our bets and we want to go into the pizza delivery business, and also we want to have a chicken concept. Okay, why do you want those? Well, we're going to sort of balance the portfolio. We want to have this. We want to also amortize the use of property and so on. So began to understand, okay, why is the amortizing use of property important to you? Oh, because rents are so high. Why, okay, rents are so high, and we've got so much space, and we don't really need the space yet. So what would happen if you didn't get something else in that space? Well, the business at the moment, what problem is that causing you? He said, well, the business at the moment is not profitable because we have too much space, the rent's too high, square footage is too big to run this operation. So we need to actually put something else in there to try and help balance the books. So you have a property problem on his hands. So what's his need? His deepest need is he needs to solve his property problem. And and then how would they prioritize some of these things? So as some customers are, you might have 3 or 4 or 5, 6 different needs, and you think, how does the customer prioritize those? And that's important. And oops, have I changed something? There we go. And did we see any buying signals in the meeting? Who else was at the meeting? Was the finance guy there? Was the CEO at the meeting? Was the head of operations? Who were the key players? Who else came to the meeting? And was there buy-in? What were the buying signals? What kind of questions were they asking? When you began to, were they leaning forward thinking, wow, that's really interesting? Or were they kind of, oh, come on, is it time to go yet? What was happening in the call? What's the decision-making process? So you come out of the call, you think you've got the sale. I've seen people come back to me even as a sales manager. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to buy this. I say, okay, what's the decision-making process? They need to get a purchase order number. Have they got budgetary approval? Which department is this going to be allocated to? What other people are involved in the decision-making process? So you ask all these questions and they think, oh man, I don't know. So you go into all of this, and then you, what's the ordering process? How does it have to happen? Do they pay in advance, or can we give them credit, and all that kind of stuff goes into it? And are we going at this alone, or are we in a competitive situation? Are we competing against somebody else? I spoke to somebody earlier about, he's in the software business, very competitive in almost any area. So who are you competing against, and how are you going to rank against that competitor? What do they like about you? What do they like about them? What's the real selling point that they're buying? And when is the next meeting? What's the follow-up? What are the next steps? What next steps have you agreed with those customers? So when you sit down to do your proposal and you ask yourself those, I don't know, 8 questions, whatever it is, that's when you realize, oh man, I should have done more planning here. I should have done more preparation. Because now you realize there are gaps in your knowledge, okay? So the gaps in the knowledge, how do you fill those gaps? You do it by having pre-call planning, right? So that's the key thing, is pre-call planning, you know, because the benefits of doing it are it makes us look professional. So you really are, man, you come across as being a pro, you know, you do a really good job, you come across as being a professional. It also helps identify who you should be talking to. Who are the key people in the meeting, you know? So you might want to, so when you set the appointment says, yeah, I said, okay, you're going to see the guy, he's a finance director or whatever, right? So you're going to see the finance director. So tell me, who else in your organization would benefit from knowing about what we have to offer, or about this problem, or whatever it might be? And you'd say, well, actually, yeah, I think our chief operating officer should be there, or head of HR, or whatever it might be, and you bring somebody else into that meeting. And that's always better to have more than one of them at the meeting, because now you've got they'll start selling you to each other. Oh yeah, I like this. Why did you see that? I saw that. That was really good, and so on. So that all begins to happen within there. Also helps establish, you know, you start creating the need. So what are the real reasons? And they'll begin to tell you some things in advance of the meeting. And then we set up a meeting with them, and you agree the time. We're going to meet you at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning in your offices, and you know, and because you could ask them, who else from our organization would you like to bring? Would you like me to bring? Would you like a technical person to come along, or whatever? And most of them say, oh, well, actually, maybe not yet, but or they might say, yes, I'm particularly interested in this aspect of whatever it is you're selling, and you might bring somebody else in. Why are you interested in that aspect? Oh, because we have this issue with whatever. And think, that's interesting. So then you bring that other person along. I just see somebody writing, I have answers already written into some of the workbooks. Some of the answers in, some not. So yeah, please take notes in some of the ones where I haven't. I've left them blank deliberately so people write them in. What do we do? Well, first we do our research. You know, so any organization, look them up, get to know them. You need to know the organization really well, and what's happening, what's happening in their industry, what's kind of ticking their boxes, what are the main moves, things going in there. If it's a public trading company, you can get an annual report. Nowadays web searches are great, and and look at some of the key people, where you jump on LinkedIn and see where they were, look at trade journals, whatever it might be, and what's happening in the sector, what's happening in their business. I could relay you with 1,000 stories of things where I walked into minefields because I hadn't done my research, and you feel a complete idiot. And but then you have to then somehow redeem yourself when you're there. Then you think, okay, what are the main areas you think people have problems in, generic problems across the particular sector? Where are the generic problems? What kind of questions can I ask them? And how can I devise good questions? What kind of good questions would uncover that? And so you need to think about the kind of questions you would ask, and practice those questions. Practice them with your wife or husband or kids or whatever. Practice, ask questions and ask more questions, and keep practicing all those things. And where do you think there's an opportunity for you to help them save money or make money and so on? Where is that business? Where's that reason to buy? How can you come up with that? And then come up with a valid business reason for the call. So you have that pretty much put in place. So, depending on what you're selling, you might want to have meetings internally with other people in your organization before you go out. Okay. You want to go and talk to somebody else. Yeah. Now, the lady here has a vegetable business. Is that right? Fruit and veg business, farming. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Yeah, the light, the sun. So it might be if you're going to visit somebody, Okay, who are your customers, like end users, like hotels or catering companies or so on? So okay, so it might be that you could talk internally about, because are there development chefs involved in this? How could we? Is there an opportunity for us to get new products that bring to the market that might be better, to create up to open up a new area for menu development in restaurants, to give people a competitive edge? Are there other things? Are there ways of growing that? Maybe use research as an excuse to get buy-in from one of your customers. So you go to one of the customers and say, listen, we've got the ability to grow this, that, and the other. I've noticed recently there's a trend towards pak choy or whatever, and if we could grow pak choy, is this something that would enhance your menu? You know, yeah, it would be actually. That'd be really good. Okay, fine. Let's work together then on some ideas around pak choy, and you start growing pak choy. So now you got buy-in before you don't have a product to sell. Now you're enhancing his menu. And you're helping him to make money, because now he's going to go on and have pak choy on his menu, which he never did before. And he may have a competitive advantage there, because maybe nobody else in town is doing that. So you see what I mean? So you begin to have those meetings. And you might want to talk internally, so you might want to talk to the growers. Could we grow pak choy? What else could we grow here, guys? That would be good, you know. And what's the lead time from seed to crop? How could we do that? And how could we do something that's a bit unusual? How could we go maybe more after the upmarket area where price is less sensitive and so on? So you can have that internal conversation with people, and then you go to the customer and you think, actually, now I've got a better idea, rather than just here, do you want a box of eggs or do whatever it is. You're now going deeper into their business to know their needs. So it's that type of thing I'm thinking of. I've got that pre-call planning sheet. Actually, if you want to hand those out, Kuna, these ones here, there's 3 in a pack, okay? And they're all 3 are different. Everybody needs to get a pack of 3. They're stapled together. The front of this is like a pre-call planning sheet, so you put in the data of where you're going. And then the second sheet is a dummy. Shows you one like the cookery program, one we did earlier. And then the third one is one you do after the call, which helps you do some personal assessment and development within that. So that's pretty useful. So with this, so at this point we'd have a workshop. Maybe we should just have a little break of a workshop. I don't know if this is about, and it's going to be difficult for people online. Where is my technical genius gone to? So just here in the room, I'm just telling everybody online, here in the room we've handed out something to the team so that they have, and I'll try and find that online here and put that up for us. Now, can I share this on screen with the group online?
Yes, it's showing.
It's showing?
Yes.
Oh, cool. All right, that's good. All right. It may not do the thing I want. Oh, there it will. Okay. So you can see here, so this is a very basic sheet. And you're not going to fill this out every time for every call. This is more to trying to get your mindset into thinking and understanding this. So, and what I end up doing, so on the first sheet there with the green sales call planning, what you're trying to do there is just capture normal data, okay? This is the normal stuff you're going to put in, the name and contacts and whatever. And then what are your initial thoughts? Okay, this is a company that does, it's a restaurant, and they want to, they're quite progressive, they want to open up, have a new menu and whatever else it might be. And so what's my valid business reason for seeing them? My valid business reason would be to try to understand how we can help them how we can make our farm help them produce a more enhanced menu, a better menu, a more modern menu, whatever it might be. So you're trying to do that. And then you might want to pick out a particular product area that you want to focus on. What the product area you want to be? And it may not be the right one, but you do this as a discipline, okay? And then what's the ideal outcome you want to have from this? What's the ideal that you want from this meeting? What's my objective going into this? It might be a sale, it might be closing a sale. It might be too soon for that. Maybe it's you want to get an opportunity to come back and do a demonstration, or them come to visit your facility. So there might be different reasons why you want to meet with them. And that's important. And what's the minimum acceptable outcome, and then how are you going to establish credibility with them? What are you going to say about yourself or your organization to establish credibility with them? That's important. And then you begin to look at your own strengths. What are the strengths that your organization have? What's the benefit to them? Okay, and what example, what proof are you going to give them of that? So it's quite just this basic discipline within that. And then getting information. So you need information from them. So you might have some information going in already, public trading company or website, whatever it is. You get some information, and then you want what new information are you going to get? And take a note of that new information when you go there. Oh, they're in the middle of an acquisition, or they're being merged with somebody else, or they're in the middle of a big hiring phase because they've got new investment, or whatever it happens to be. What's that new information? And then always check your attitude. What's that going to be as a reminder going in there? And then you're going to try and get commitment from them. And then you think, okay, what's their possible objection going to be? What pushback am I going to get here? And how am I going to handle that? So you're trying to think in advance how you're going to plan this call. So how am I going to get in there? How am I going to figure this out? So anything else you can think of that you want to put into that place. So that's for the people online. That's just a mock-up one that I've put in for there. So what kind of credibility and so on. So you'll see all of that, but that's all available for you. And then the last one, this is what we would do maybe at the end, but this is actually really good to have. I used to have these. I still use this. Even at Dodo, you think after you've had a meeting with somebody, what are the things that did I do my activity correctly? Did I plan this meeting right? Did I make a good transition from pre-call planning and meeting them and all of that kind of stuff? Did I build rapport effectively with them? How was that? And did I probe for understanding? Did I ask questions? Were they good questions? And I can kind of just mark myself. I've used this type of thing in field accompaniment, where I've been a sales manager out in the field with a salesperson, and they've been going in, and we sort of help score them afterwards. And it's not you're going to lose your job kind of scoring. It's how can I improve kind of scoring. And you begin to look at how that will work. So that type of thing is pretty useful. So if I jump back into any questions on that? Because what I would normally do is have a workshop where people physically do that, fill it out for their business, and sort of think. Give me some feedback on thoughts on that.
When you're asking on this one, transition made, what are you looking out for?
Oh, good question. Yes, I will. I'll come to that actually. That's a good question. I'll come to that just down the road a little bit. Yeah. It's where you're moving. This is where you're trying to put a system in place where you have an opening and they say, hello, how are you? Very nice to meet you and everything else. And then now you want to move away from that to now we're getting down to business. That's one transition, for example. And so that's a pretty simple one. But those things are very important within what we do.
So you talked about having knowledge of a product. Now, as the owner of the business, I might have the knowledge of the product, but what about the salesman now? Because the scenario you gave, the example you gave was about the salesman. Yeah, so how do you make sure that the people who are selling your products are not alienated from those products?
Product training. You mean your sales team? If you have salespeople going out, how do you know that they're equipped with the product knowledge that they need to close the deal? Is that what you're thinking? Yeah. I think that comes down to selling. That comes down to training them on the features of the product and the benefits of the product. So what does this do? And we'll deal with features and benefits in a while. But I think that comes down to product training. And it's not just knowing the features of the product, how it all works, but what is that doing for the customer? How is that going to improve the customer's life in business? Whether it's going to help us save time, save money, enhance the experience of what he's doing. How is that product going to do that? So that comes down to product knowledge. And I think as an organization, then you have to train people in doing that. And that's very, very important. So getting new product in, I think you need to then train your staff on how to sell that product. Sometimes if you're a dealer for something, then I think like you're selling, I don't know, you're selling paint, for example, Dulux paint or something like this. You probably need to get the Dulux guy in to train your people in how to sell. What are the competitive advantages that Dulux gives over something else? More coverage per square meter and this type of stuff. So they can really relate to that. Okay. Now the opening, so we've got a few things in here. One of them is the opening. So this is the next part in here. When we come in, if you see here, you can look at a few areas. They're like establishing rapport, verify the purpose of the meeting, understanding their objectives of the meeting, and confirm their availability. Now, this is really key. This part of the meeting is really important. And this is where I see people making mistakes all the time. And this affects the whole sort of tone of the meeting, and it affects the outcome. So you go there, you establish rapport. Now, you need to be careful how you establish rapport. Firstly, you might be at reception, and somebody comes down to collect you. You don't know who this person is. This could be the CEO, because they happen to be walking by. Oh, can you bring Jack up from the reception to me? Yeah, it could be the cleaner. We've no idea. You need to be respectful of who you meet, be cordial and be courteous, and be careful what questions you answer, because people have banter. Oh, hello, how are you? How's the weather? Well, that's probably not a question you guys ask. We ask it in Ireland all the time. So, what's the weather? Or you might talk about the football. Oh, how was the football of the weekend? Oh, it was good. My team won or lost or whatever it is. But be careful that you're not there to talk about football. You're there to be courteous, and you say, yes, very nice to meet you. That's very good. And you keep going, get to the meeting. And you try and not be too familiar, but keep a certain distance, certain formality. So the whole way of establishing rapport, but you might want to ask them questions. How's business going? How are things in your sector at the moment? This is just gentle talk as you may be walking from the lift to the office before you get in. And then you get into the office, and that's where the action really begins to start. So we build rapport, and this is all like about small talk. You might talk about travel, how's your journey, whatever it might be. But be alert. I've been with young salespeople going in, and they end up getting too familiar, or they start talking about something, and you think, why are they talking about this? No. There's no need to do this. But just be nice and gentle with how we build rapport. Now, this is the part here. Verify the purpose and establish their objectives. So if you take the scenario, you're going into, this brings focus to the meeting. You're going into a meeting and you sit down, everybody's there. The first thing you do is, hi, I'm David from whatever it is, janitorial supplies, I'm here. I say, oh, that's very nice to meet you. And you move around and say, tell me, let's go around and have some basic introductions. I'm David, you're Jack, and this is Jill, and so on. So you're going to have some basic, and then ask them, what's your area of responsibility? And they say, oh, I'm the finance guy, or I'm the whatever it might be. So now you think, okay, this guy's going to be asking me money questions. This guy's going to be asking me operations questions. So you ask a few things. And they say, what would make this meeting useful for you today? What would you like from this meeting? Now they begin to come back to you and tell you things like, oh yeah, what I'd really like to know is understand is about your organization. And if it's very general, push back. Say, okay, anything specific? Which specific area are you interested in? And they might say, I'm very interested in your IT system. Oh, that's very interesting. Why are you interested in the IT system? Because they know the guy's a problem up here somewhere. So you're trying to give the guy a little bit of more information. You do a bit of mining here. Why? Well, yeah, because our current IT system is really not performing really well, whatever. I said, okay, can I come back to you on that in a few minutes? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So now you move on to the next guy, and he's the finance guy, and so on. So you now move around, and then you say, tell me, guys, is there anybody else in the organization that could benefit from being here today? And they'll say, oh yeah, we'd love to have a Jack here. Jack is our property manager, but Jack is on vacation. We'd love to have a Jack here. Why would it be important for Jack to be here? Oh, because he's really involved. So Jack has some needs as well. So now you're thinking, Jack is on vacation. He's the property guy, but he has some problems. That's a good one. I clock that. I'll park that in my mind. And now you go on to tell me, how are we for time? How much time do we have today? And they'll say, oh, we've got about 40 minutes or whatever. I say, okay, that's fine. Now you know how to pace your call. So now you have to pace your call. And you think, okay, that's really good. So now well, my agenda today is I'd like to introduce us. I'd like to understand what you guys are doing in the market and see if there's any way we can work together on whatever. So you present an agenda. It's verbal. You're not going to give people a printed agenda. Maybe you would, but it's very rare that people would do that. So you keep it quite informal, but you do those obvious things. You present an agenda. You confirm that they are happy with the agenda. Is there anything else you want to cover? Today I'd like to cover this, this, and this. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that? And they might say, oh yeah, we'd also like to do such a thing. Oh, that's good. So they add something else to the agenda. So that's now you're building rapport with them around this. So now you're setting the stage. Ask them if they like anything to add. So now you know you asked them who they are, what their areas of responsibility are, what they want from the meeting. You've presented your agenda. Ask them if they want anything else added to that. And this is all in 5 minutes. This is all pretty quick at the beginning. So now you know that this is you're now beginning to do your needs analysis. So it's actually a really good way of doing that. Availability and attendees have already covered that. So you ask them, who else would benefit from it, and how much time have you got? I've been in meetings where all of a sudden somebody says, listen, I need to be, bye-bye. And you think, man, I wanted to ask him such a thing, and I didn't. So you need to, if you ask in advance, you know how to pace that. And so workshop 2 that we would normally have with this is we sort of just do a little bit of practice, building rapport. So building rapport, confirm the number of attendees, and setting an agenda, and then what the customer wants from the meeting, what would you like from the meeting, and how much time is there available. So when you see it up like that, they're real simple things. And after you've practiced this a while, it becomes a very, very natural thing to do. You go along and say, hi, very nice to meet you, da-da-da. So is there anybody else who would benefit from being here today? So, okay. Tell me, I was thinking today that maybe we'd like to get to know your organization a bit more and look at what your plans are for expanding over the next 5 years, and look at how you might want to get into the QSR sector and whatever. And they'll say, yeah, and what did you want from the meeting today? Well, actually, I'd like to know more about how we can do this and that and the other. So, okay, that's fine. And so you've confirmed all of those things with them. So building rapport is important. That's really kind of cool with people. And then, confirming the number of attendees, that's really nice to know. And then setting an agenda. Today I want to do such and such a thing and whatever. And you've seen a couple of examples there of almost bringing spin techniques in. And I'll deal with spin techniques maybe tomorrow. But you're asking questions, and you're asking, what's the implication of that? So the situation is this, and so this is the problem, and then the implication of that problem is this, so the real need is that. You saw here by putting in a carpet that was non-slip or whatever it was, some poor chap is going to get evicted because he's going to lose his job, right? I mean, that's an exaggerated sort of form of this, but you continue to ask questions, continue to ask questions, and continue to ask questions. And it's like, we'll all go home later on. I'll talk to my wife this evening. How was your day? She said, oh, it was fine. Okay, I could just take that as an answer, right? Oh, tell me, what was the best part of your day? That's a different question. Best part of the day. Well, best part of the day was when I met so-and-so and we had coffee. Oh, really? Where did you meet? We met in such a place in Oxford. All right. What did you have? Oh, I had that cream cake. Oh, wow. What was it like? Yeah, it was good. And what did you like about it? Oh, it was the cream and the raspberry. Oh, man, the raspberry was so good. Why was that so good? Oh, just the way it rolled around in my mouth. It was, So now we've gone from how was your day to now having this sensuous experience of understanding what it is. Right? So asking more questions. So that's a very important part of understanding people's needs. So now the next transition would be you ask permission to ask questions. Okay, that's very nice to hear all of that. Listen, because they might say to you at the beginning, oh, tell me about your carpets, David. I hear you got great carpets. Tell me about your carpets. Oh yeah, tell you what, before that, is it okay if I ask you a few questions about your organization? Ah, now there's the transition, right? So there's the transition. So now you frame it well, so, because if I can do that, because you might even want to put some things around that, because earlier on you said such and such a thing and whatever. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions first? And they say, yes, it is. So now you've got permission to ask questions. Happy days. Oh, by the way, is it all right if I take some notes? Sometimes people get jumpy about that, and again, you can take some notes. That's fine. So now you're at ease, and you can now talk to them about it. So now it's a nice, gentle transition, and you're now into establishing needs, and we establish needs by asking questions. So where are those needs? The questioning strategies. Needs-oriented questions and some spin techniques. What kind of techniques would you use for a thing called spin? So establishing needs. Wow. Why do we do it? People buy to have their needs met, ultimately. People buy to have their needs met. I think that's really, really an important part of what we do. And the more needs we uncover, the better. It might be that there's just one need, but there might be several needs that they may have. And so it's... and the more needs we draw out, the better it's going to be. And I'll come back to that. I'll come on to this in establishing needs in a second, because how do we do it? Well, we ask questions, we listen for the answers. We might use spin techniques like we were doing there, sort of exaggerating what happens if, and what happens if, and what happens if, and so on. And you look at the body language, see what kind of buy-in you're getting. So you don't come to people with the solution initially. Now, who here has been to the dentist? Right? Right, so you've all been to the dentist. Can you imagine going to the dentist and he says, hey, hello, David, how are you? I'm fine, doctor. And I say, yeah, that's great. And then he takes the drill out and he comes over. And you think, what would I think? Man, dear, this guy hasn't asked me any questions. He hasn't done the tapping thing. He hasn't done where does it hurt? How are those fillings? He hasn't got an x-ray. Nothing. What would you do if he came at you with a drill? What would you do? You run. Exactly right. So he didn't establish any needs. When he came at you with a solution. Solution was the drill. And he came at you'd run, right? So likewise, when we want our needs, he wants to ask you. We're used to being asked questions. When we go to the doctor, does it hurt here? Does it hurt there? Breathe in here, and all this kind of stuff. And then the doctor will say this, and this, and he taps this and feels that, and maybe takes an x-ray. And so they do this analysis. And that's really important. And they ask questions. And I think we need to develop really good questioning strategies when we're talking to people about their needs and trying to understand what their needs are. And where is this, and where is that, and what are the implications, and so on. So organizational needs, there might be big picture things. Really big picture. Change is the other thing that comes. Change always brings an opportunity to sell something. Whether you're growing the business or it's downsizing, there's always going to be a need when there's change. Well, some of the big picture things you might identify, somebody might say in the organization, oh yeah, we want to open up 4 more branches, or we want to open up, we want to enhance our menu from dinner to lunch, or we want to open up a new day part, we want to open up a restaurant for breakfast, we want to have a breakfast club type of thing. So there are various things that are going on. So these might be things that are stated in their annual report. It might be something they've said online or you've picked up somewhere else. And they say, well, actually, the big picture is, yeah, we're going to expand into 3 more countries this year, or we're going to open up 120 new restaurants, whatever it might be. And then you think, okay, there's change going on here. And that's the organization, that's the big picture, the big profit line, how that's going to be, and so on. And then you come down to the departmental lead. So if somebody wants to open up 50 restaurants this year, or whatever it is, and you're talking to the property director, does he care about menu development? He couldn't care less. He couldn't care if he never saw a pizza, right? All he's interested in is, I want to get a property. It has to have managed this demographic. It has to have route for extract. It has to have parking. It has to have enough room to put in 20 tables, whatever it is. He's focused on property issues. So you're not going to talk to him about menu. He doesn't care about the menu. He doesn't care at all. So his department are fully there. If you're talking to the development chef, does the development chef care about the property? He couldn't care less if you were serving this in a field. All he's interested in is actually coming up with a really good menu and making sure the menu is right and everything else. So the department you're talking to, that they'll have departmental needs. that are peculiar to that department. So you need to make sure, and it might be that you're talking to people across different functionalities, but it's understanding what the departmental needs might be. Oh, we had lights come on. And what are the what kind of customers have they got? Everybody has customers, even internal customers. What are the internal customers? What are they going? What are the departmental needs like? Like for example, when I worked for Federal Express, this is way back in the early 90s, I think it was. I had, you think FedEx is easy. You pick up a package here and you deliver it over there. What could go wrong? You know, it's like it's an easy thing to do. So you go talk to people now. You could talk to the guy in the warehouse, or you could talk to the finance director. You could talk to all sorts of different people in the organization who had responsibility for package movement around the thing, whether it was a big company with huge warehousing and lots of things going out, or just small packages going with documents in those days to other companies. So you start doing all of this stuff with them, and you go along and you meet somebody. And there was one particular incident where I walked into the company and the guy said, I'm not interested. Well, I'm dealing with such a thing and it's cheap, it's fine, it's not a bother. Okay. And I came out of it and I thought, okay, he's the warehouse guy. He's not interested in the product. Okay, who else has a problem in this area? So I went to the head of sales. I Googled them, or not Googled them, I did some digging around. And we found out that they were, their main competitor was offering a next day service. Are you with me? So they're offering a next day service for items to be delivered. So long as you ordered it before 3 o'clock, it was delivered next day before 5. So I thought, okay, that's interesting. And I then went back to the other company I was looking at, and they were offering a 2-day service. Finished by 5. So I contacted the sales director. I said, I'm David from FedEx. What if I came? I said, I see your product is really good. You're new in the market. I see at the moment if you order your product, it's a 2-day delivery. What if I could show you a way of having anybody place an order up to 5 o'clock in the evening and have a guaranteed next morning delivery by 10 o'clock? Would that give you a competitive advantage in the market? He said, wow, where are you guys based? Can you come and see me? Right? So now, and actually we ended up charging more than he was getting before. When he was getting a next morning service with a cut-off time of 5 o'clock the day before. So that gives him a huge competitive advantage in the market. And funny enough, and that was great. And afterwards, he said, what do you like about FedEx? Like I put out a point there to ask people about the product. Just said, what do you like about FedEx? Oh, he said, I'll tell you what we really love. We love your invoices. I thought he was being sarcastic. And he said, I said, really, what do you like about our invoices? Well, you put an allocation code against all of the lines on the invoice. So when our accounts department get the invoices, they know immediately where to allocate each of these items to dispatch or to retail or whatever it might be. And that saved them one person in finance. So we actually we could have potentially reduced their finance department by 1 headcount. So you don't know what the benefits are within that. So it's knowing where the needs are. And you don't know those needs until you begin to ask questions. It also comes down to product knowledge and what benefit is there. And everywhere I went afterwards, I had to say, how do your accounts department process the invoices? Because now I knew we had a solution to a problem that I never knew existed. Because I've never been an accountant. I've never worked in accounts. But I never knew that problem existed. And it turns out that actually that was a real problem that lots of people had right the way across the industry. So we used to talk to me. I used to love this thing of allocating because it was so simple. And when I think back on it now. So what are their internal customers? What are they there? What do they want from us? You know, what would their ideal solution be? You know, because sometimes I ask, what's your ideal solution? You know, and there might be a bit of banter, a bit of joking around. Oh yeah, something for nothing and daddy that. But you know, you break out. Seriously, what would be your ideal solution? And they might give you something which will also uncover additional needs as well. And then, you know, we give them stuff. What do they do with what we give them? Who else is involved in the process? How does that go on? Where can we, again, how can I add value to what I'm trying to do here? And if they're currently doing certain things, we'd like to know what's the current situation, what's the ideal situation, what's the gap, and what can we do to bridge that gap? And can my product or service bridge that gap? And I think that's a really important one. So these are all sort of the departmental things that are in there. And also, sometimes there's personal stuff as well, because the guy is there and he's like, man, I need to get a solution to this. I had somebody recently, and he had a property problem. He said, I just need to get rid of this property. I said, why? So I'm getting so much grief from the MD. He just seems to have focused in on this property. I need to get rid of this property. What can you do to help me? I said, okay, and we did whatever. And but that was a personal pain that he was feeling that he wanted to get rid of. So we might have big organizational, big picture things, then departmental things, and then individual pain. And how can we bring all of those together to sell our service and solve a problem for them? So developing these questions. Having really good questions is important to begin with. And sometimes with young salespeople, new salespeople, I get people to write down a couple of questions beforehand, before they go in. Apart from anything else, it's a bit of a fallback position. And practice is everything. You can practice internally. And in a role like FedEx, it was great because we typically do 8 calls in a day, 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon. So if you goofed up a call, well, who cares? There's 7 more, right? So it's fine. It's more challenging in the environment I'm in now, so I have to do a lot more planning because I don't get to practice. I might only have 3 sales calls a month, right? So we're interfacing with people. So I need to be on my game. So I need to plan better and make sure it's done right, have good questions, and take control. So I need to be able to do that now. It becomes better. I have to get better at preparation because I don't do it as often, and the meetings are more critical. When you have 8 meetings a day and one of them falls over, you don't really care, right? But because there's 7 more, and you've got the rest of the week to recover from it. But if you only have 3 or 4 meetings a month, every one of them is super important. So prepare some questions in advance. That's really useful to do. So various ones here, analytical questions. You try to do some analysis. You're drilling in, asking questions about their systems, their processes, their current practices. Where are the gaps between where they are and where they'd like to be? So you're doing some analysis. You're asking some analytical questions. And then you're asking some speculative ones. What would happen if such a thing happened? Or what would happen if this? Or what if we could do that? Or what would your ideal solution be? And so on. So you're trying to be speculative. And then you might ask some consequence. What would happen if? What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't do this today? What's the worst thing that can happen if you don't solve this problem? If you have a problem with property, whatever it is. What's the implication of that? What's the biggest issue you have? What's the consequence of that? So you're trying to use that, and the other thing when you're questioning or you're asking questions is to use silence. Yeah. Silence is really important. Now, I don't know what it's like here, but if you get politicians in England and they're on the radio, right, and they're being asked a question, so what's the politician going to do? He's not going to answer the question, right? He's going to answer a different question, because he'll have had a briefing the night before or early that morning, and this is our briefing on the topics of today. So when you ask him, and what are you going to do about the sewage system and whatever, he said, well, you know, I think the way the economy is growing right now is really good. We've got a lot more people in employment, and we have had a new scheme brought out, and we have a new power plant being built. But hang on, that's not the question you were asked. Right? So, and so we all have these kind of things. So you have to watch what people are doing. Now, then you get the guy, and you ask a question, and the newsreader will ask the guy a question. So what do you think about whatever it is? And the guy is using silence. He's not answering the question. And then the questioner turns it into multiple choice. Well, do you feel this? Do you feel that? Do you feel this? I think, don't ask him multiple choice. That's going to make it too easy for him. Force the politician. You need good newscasters, right? And newsreaders are good. Listen to these guys asking questions, and you begin to see the kind of questions they're asking. Are they asking consequence questions? Are they being analytical? Are they being speculative? Are they using silence? So yeah, just listen to that on radio, and you'll begin to sort of see and incorporate some of those skills into your sales calls when you're talking to people. Yeah, there's a long list of things in here. I don't want to go through all of those in detail. Yeah, we talk again. The benefit of probing. Yes, fine. Ask oriented needs. Take accurate notes. That's really important. Always take notes, even if you have to use silence. So if just a second, I need to just take a note of that. Take a note of that. I was in a meeting in London last week. It was a very important deal we're trying to put together, and this chap was there. He's hard to understand because his English wasn't great, and he was taking notes, and he wanted me to. He was calling out. He had 13 points eventually in this, and he was writing in Arabic, and I was writing in English. And I couldn't even quib his notes to see what they were because I can't read Arabic. And so anyway, began to write these notes down to try and understand what it was. And I took pretty good notes, but when I went back to the train on the way home, I went through the notes, and there's a few gaps in my knowledge. And I had to try and replay in my mind what we said, and so I could make the notes accurate. So take accurate notes. I think that's really, really important. And actually confirming along the way as we're talking to people. Just as I'm writing this note here, I noticed that what you said is this, this, and this. Is that right? Oh, yes, it is. And then he might give you even more information. So that's important within that. And let the client talk. Get the client talking. The more the client talks, the better. Now, we talked about this. Now, have people come across this acronym before? SPIN? Anybody? No? All right, okay, cool. If you Google SPIN, I mean, and spin selling, spin techniques, and so on, and there's millions of stuff online about SPIN. And some of it you can kind of take with a pinch of salt. But actually, some parts of it are important, okay? Because within some parts of this, what you're trying to do is communicate to somebody what your understanding of their situation. So the situation you're in at the moment is such and such, and you summarize what that is. And they'll say, oh, yes, it is. They'll say, yeah, that's right, yeah, that's fine. So then, you're trying to say, oh, so the problem then is such a thing. Yes, it is. So the situation at the moment is you have a school and you're trying to put on new flooring. Yes, that's right. That's the situation. Okay. And you're trying to reduce your budget as well, from 5,000 to 1,500 or whatever it is. And yes, that's right. And you want to have a non-slip environment or whatever, a slip-resistant environment. And you summarize what the situation is. And the problem is that you need to get this in because school is reopening in 2 weeks' time. And the implication, if you don't get this installed in 2 weeks, it means you can't open the school. Yeah, we can't reopen the school, so that's going to be a result of the implication. What are the implications of that? So if you get over that, well, parents will be in uproar and so on. All right, so the real need then is to get this in on time, to budget, done. And you can then summarize. So now you're beginning to develop that. And here's where we can have a little workshop. Who'd like a workshop? Larry King. Larry King used to be an anchorman in a New York chat show somewhere. Very interesting thing here. He said, I never learned anything when I was talking. So you can only learn by listening. So, what can we do here? I'm trying to think. And this transition is, now we had one transitioning from hello, hello. Is it all right to ask you a few questions about this? Now the next transition, now you've asked a pile of questions, and the next transition is, he said not working. He says summarizing needs. So that's transition 2. So now he says, why do we do it? Well, and how do we do it? Well, we make a statement summarizing the situation. Oh, so the situation is do. The situation is, yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so have I got that right? And so you invite confirmation. So you say, yes, I got it right. And or you say, no, you missed such a thing. Oh, really? Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Now you add that in. So you're getting clarification from them, and you're bringing that in. So this transition is really important. Now, is there anything else that I've missed? Is there anything I've missed? So you ask, for any other needs. Anything else I've missed? And they might say yes, there's something such and such or whatever. And then you say, listen, all right, I see what you're saying. All right, is it okay if I present a solution? Now that's the transition. And that's what you do. So you're now going to present a solution. But before you do, we need to go into features and benefits, okay? And tomorrow, we're going to have a workshop on features and benefits. Ah! And this workshop is kind of fun, right? So, oopsie daisy, I didn't get in there. And so we're going to do a workshop tomorrow, and we're using two things. One is a smartphone. So tonight, going home, look at your phone, and look at the features on your phone. What are the features on your phone, right? And give me 3 or 4. Whatever, I said 3 features, doesn't matter. Come up with 3 features on your telephone and on your smartphone. And also, we carry laptop bags or whatever it is, right? So use another one, a laptop case. That's another one. And come up with 3 features that your laptop case has. And then tomorrow, we're going to see, okay, what are the benefits of those features? You get it? Okay? So one of the features on my phone is the ability to have a screensaver, so my screen goes blank. That's a feature. The benefit of that, I can give you 2 benefits. One, it doesn't distract me when it's blank. The second one is it saves my battery. So they're the benefits, right? So the benefit is it saves battery and it doesn't cause me distraction. The feature is it goes to sleep. Do you get me? So think about features for a smartphone and think about features for a laptop case or a little backpack or whatever. And we'll do a few features of those. And we'll have a bit of workshop tomorrow morning, or tomorrow at lunchtime when we get in. All right? Any other questions for me? Good. Thank you all so much.